Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to host Shantanu today on our AI and CX Leaders podcast. This is a really special one and something I've been looking forward to a while. I've known Shantanu for multiple years at this point. He's a seasoned business leader with over 2 decades of experience driving operational excellence and customer experience innovation across the e-commerce and consulting sectors. Currently, he's serving as a general manager and global head of customer service, primary sales, and scam prevention at Wayfair. Shantanu has held multiple leadership roles at the company, spearheading initiatives in customer support, merchandising operations, and post-order experience on a global scale. Before Wayfair, Shantanu and I were both consultants, and he spent over a decade at McKinsey, where he rose to the position of associate partner. His work focused on strategic sourcing, procurement. He's one of those rare leaders who combines a deep strategic expertise, a deeply analytical mind, and deep operational expertise. So, really excited to host Shantanu. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ashish, and thank you for the kind words. Great to be here.
What did I miss in your introduction?
You didn't. I don't think you missed anything. But thank you once again. Thank you for the kind words. And I have to echo the fact that I think over the past few years that we've worked on, and I think we have built something really good together around application of AI. So really appreciate the partnership.
Wonderful. So for our audience, Shantanu, would be great if you could tell us about the scope of your operations. All right, people often don't appreciate how the machine behind the machine, which it takes to support a global organization like Wayfair, and some of the key goals you are looking to achieve with technology and AI. Like maybe even step back 6 months ago, and what were some of the goals you were looking to achieve? I know we are on the journey to achieve some of them, and then looking forward a year out, or a year, or foreseeable future. What are some of the goals you're looking to achieve?
Just a quick introduction on Wayfair. I think the audience would probably know what Wayfair is. Wayfair, we are an e-commerce company, and we primarily operate in the home goods space.
Mm-hmm.
And we really take customer obsession too hard, and our goal has always been and will be to drive excellence in customer experience in all moments of truth, whether it is the visit experience, the delivery experience, or the post-delivery issues and challenges that customers face. So truly looking at all moments of truth and end-to-end and giving an exceptional customer experience is our primary goal. Within that, so in my area, like you mentioned, so I manage primary sales, customer service, and scam prevention. So this is a team of around, so just in terms of the scale, so there's a team of around 3,000 people.
Wow.
And very global team in truly in the global sense. But we in Wayfair, what we like to do is, and my goal has always been to say, how can we make it effortless, proactive, and personalized for our customers, whether it is the experience of when they have questions before they make a sale, or post-order when they have issues and challenges. How do we make sure that we drive excellence in their experience?
Yeah.
And so the three pillars of the work around which we do the work is making it effortless, proactive, and personalized for our customers. Now, around that, you think of it as we are doing that for our customers, we also want to make sure that Wayfair is protected from, scam and fraud, right? And so how do we make sure that we protect Wayfair and our genuine customer interests by taking care of those as well, right? And then if you think of it as like an outer layer, right? All of this needs to be managed through, as I call as genius agents and AI. So this enablement has to happen. So I think in the past, I would have said genius agents and technology. But now I think as technology is changing over time, right? From the days of when we used to talk about, using machine learning, right? I think we are evolving from machine learning to saying AI-enabled, agentic AI, right? And so over the past year and a half, the deep focus has been, how do we bring both? How do we keep the human touch, which I think is still very relevant in many
Right.
areas, but at the same time, enhance the experience and productivity
Right.
with the application of AI. So that's kind of what we're working towards.
Wonderful. Actually, going back to the first, your introduction, Shantanu, I must talk about this. You are a unique leader in this space because you, correct me if I'm wrong, I know this, you don't come from a CX background, right? Like you come from a pure business strategy, consulting, problem solving background, right? So talk to us a little bit about this. I know you and I have talked about this a lot, right? But talk to the audience about this a lot because when you go to CX conferences and you've been doing this for a few years, and as you came in with a fresh perspective on this is in this space, how did your past experience help you or hurt you in this job, right? Curious, actually, yeah.
That's a great question. So I think over my 20 plus years of professional experience,
Right.
I have to say customer has always been at the forefront, right?
Makes sense.
It's the nature of the work has evolved or changed, right? So for example, I started my work in the automotive industry, my career in the automotive industry. And in the automotive industry, I was primarily involved with new car launches and getting them to production and development of new engine parts, for example. So from then to my time in consulting, where primarily my focus was always to see what is the need of the client that we are working for, and therefore work in the best interest of the client.
Right.
To now, where I'm actually I am the operator, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
as an operator, I'm thinking of our customers for
Right.
Wayfair. So I think it has always been the customer, and thinking about the customer or client has been a core focus always. The nature of that work has evolved.
Right.
So in terms of the second part of your question, I would say, well, I think the help of my experiences, when you think of how do you think about the strategy, a lot of the times it becomes important to think about not only within an industry but cross industry, and are there best practices that you can bring. So
Right.
from my work in the past, during my my consulting life, having served multiple clients in multiple industries, whether it is retail, consumer goods, financial institutions, heavy machineries industries, and so on and so forth. When in Wayfair and in my multiple roles within Wayfair,
Right.
and I've been able to tap into some of that experience. Hurt? I don't think any experience has hurt so far, right? What I've become way more appreciative of is, and it brings into light exactly the work that we do in AI. What I've become more and more appreciative of is, if you think of innovation, right?
Mhm.
Innovation does not happen when you know of everything and what the outcome would be. When you know about the exact outcome and you start trying, well, then it's not innovation, right?
Right. Right.
Innovation is try different things, work on different things, but learn from it fast, and based on the learning, pivot fast, right?
Yeah.
And so my huge learning and appreciation of that has come from, I would say, my experience over the past 7 years, in Wayfair, where truly the culture is to promote learning by trying more, right? And you try different things and you learn, but if you fail fast and then move on. And then that's how you truly drive innovation. So that I would say is, I always knew this and it was applicable in my previous work, but the appreciation of that has increased since I've been in Wayfair.
That's a really good point. And often organizations approaches it as we know exactly where we are headed. This is a recipe for it. But in such a fast changing world, if you're not trying a few things, then you're really not innovating. Then you're probably implementing something which is well known at this point, right? So that's really interesting. When you started this journey with AI implementation within your organization, I clearly remember you had a very clear orientation which you gave your team, right? And I think the audience would benefit from that. I'm talking about specifically how, and this was a specific project, but how we were approaching automated quality, for example, or insights. and you wanted the old rule book to be out and implement something new around specific guidelines on process and behavior and so on. So, how do you, because there's a technology change part of it, right? And there's a team change part of it, especially at the scale of organization you're talking about, right? So, how do you take your team along? How do you orient your team towards that change on that journey?
Well, I could probably talk for hours on this, but let me try and summarize that. So whether it is, and I'll pull out from AI and then come to it, like whether it is AI or anything else, anything new or interesting that you are trying to do or implement, I think fundamentally the first point that should be absolutely, you should start from a point of value creation
Right,
and saying, what are the potential areas of value that will be created?
right,
Versus saying I could do it in A, B, C, D, 100 different areas. Like how do you think about the value? So I put it under three buckets, right? So when I
right,
think of AI, we started off with saying, what are the areas of value?
right.
And so the most obvious one is for personal productivity improvement. Sure.
Mhm.
Yes. So then you say personal productivity is one. But beyond that, and truly where I think more and more value is coming beyond that is number two, which is insight generation. And
Right,
insight generation to drive actions much faster and more real time than it
right.
ever was. Right? The insights have been generated from decades, but how could you
Yeah,
do it faster and how could you do it more real time? And what are the areas where you could apply? And the third is reimagining workflows completely, right?
mm,
Completely, right?
mm,
Which is where I think the real next S curve comes from.
right.
And where can we reimagine? Right.
Mm,
So I'm not going to talk about personal productivity, yes, and number generation. So when you think of reimagining, that's where I think the first thing that I told my team about is when you think of a network of customer agents,
mhm.
and specifically in this area,
Yeah.
the agents are like happy agents will drive happy customers. So
Mhm.
us focusing on agents is very, very important. But there's a way of working in the past where we said a very manual process of, okay, let's understand what the KPIs are. Let's listen to a few calls and then let's basically understand from there on what are the areas of gaps that we need to coach and guide the team.
Right,
So within that specific area, then we said, let's take what we have
right,
and not let's take what we have and the learnings what we have, but let's not restrict ourselves to that. Let's completely reimagine this and say, if there was no human in this process,
right,
how would we still end up coaching and guiding the teams more real time? The retention of the feedback happens much quicker when the feedback comes more in the moment of
right.
what you've actually done or close to the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
versus a month later, right?
Absolutely.
Then you have to dig in, for example, and so on, right? And so that's the challenge I gave to the team of saying, how do we make this completely human free?
Mhm.
And in doing that, what we were doing in the past? Well, we were doing in the past only a part of it. It's like, what about behaviors? I said, no. If you think about truly the whole thing, it is what are the behaviors that they're showing, but are they following the process as intended? And are we talking about our policies and our standards and the guidelines in the right way? So when you
Right.
take the whole thing, as you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
literally together, we rebuilt the entire rubric.
Right.
And what we're seeing now is, definitely
Yeah.
significant impact. Right? But but moving out of that and saying,
Right.
if you think about the top three things that we said, right?
Right.
So we started from a point of what are the modes of value creation? Start there first, and then say, therefore, if these are the modes of value creation, where would we apply the value creation? So then we took our end-to-end journey of starting from the customer, again, customer first, right? In
Right.
terms of it ultimately has to be a benefit to the experience itself. And then savings and cost to me is an outcome of that process, right?
Mhm.
And then we said, starting from the time of, first of all, when you think of customer service, first things first is the best service you can provide is where the customer doesn't even have to contact you.
Right.
But when they do contact you, how do you make it more proactive and personalized in
Mhm.
terms of the interactions? and therefore making it very efficient and consistent in terms of delivery of those outcomes, leading to a great experience. And so when we did that, we found there are 6 areas which are of high impact, right? First, clearly being, which is the 360-degree feedback from what our customers saying from multiple different sources and being able to do that at scale.
Right.
The second area is when an interaction happens, in the interaction, how can we help our agent? So, quote unquote, building a co-pilot model. The third is interacting directly with the customer with a virtual assistant, which was machine learning enabled in the past, but how do we make it more AI enabled so that it feels very, very conversational? Fourth area is, as we are thinking about the resolutions or the solutions for the customer, how do we make sure they are high ROI solutions for the customer and they're actually solving the problem for the customer? So building in the nuances depending on the customer situation, the customer type, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The fifth area is the classic areas of as we call as WFM, right? And then how do we apply, in WFM space? And then sixth area is in terms of training, coaching, quality, which obviously, we have worked very, very closely on.
Yeah.
And underlying these themes, I would say all of these themes are how do you protect customers from scam and fraud?
That is really helpful, Shantu. I think you almost gave a roadmap for any CX leader to think about technology and CX, and I expected no less from you. Wonderful. No, so double clicking on that, you also mentioned this before. So this idea of, and at level, we have been talking about this now in a big way. We launched our own voice agent and chat agent recently. And often we get this from our customers, which is like, hey, should I have an automation goal or should I have a quality goal? And our view is you should have a customer experience goal, right? And it shouldn't be about how much automation or how much human agents can you put. It's the human and AI together. And you mentioned this almost in as many same words. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I know you have initiatives, as you said, virtual agent, AI-driven virtual agent, but you also have this genius agent. So it's the marriage of the two or the balance of the two, right? So how do you think about striking that balance? How do you think about what's the right synergy there?
So the way I think about this is it is a spectrum, right? And if you look at all kinds of roles and things, it starts from complete automation using AI to 70%, 50%, 20%. But I personally think there is no area where application of AI is not going to make us more efficient. Every single area will make us more efficient. And so the goal of every individual, and I'm going beyond just the goal of every individual should be how do I harness the power of AI to be able to do the work of 3 people,
Right.
to be able to drive more insights than before, and to completely reimagine things. Like I said, those 3 things. So our thought process has been put the customer first.
Right.
And when you put the customer first, what we are finding is, so these LLMs, like wherever you like, it doesn't matter like which solution you're using and where you're using. Primarily, there's a learning curve to it. And when you think of LLMs, I think there are broad-based 3 or 4 players out there where you will get an outcome. The secret sauce is in how do you use those to convert into the outcome that you need, and that's where to me is the secret sauce, and that's where to me is the thinking that is needed. And to us, there is a significant amount of which is pretty straightforward in terms of automation.
Yeah.
But there will always be a certain subsegment of work which is super complex, which today AI may not be able to help with, but a percentage of that work, I think AI can help you become more efficient and still get you the right outcome. That's a bit of our approach in terms of the spectrum. I can go into the details of which area and what. Essentially, it's a spectrum. But having said that, like my opinion is, don't force it on your customers.
Right.
Let the customer see the value of it for them in terms of sometimes it becomes quicker and faster for them to They are on a computer, they're chatting on a computer, and they're also doing this, right?
Mhm.
And over time, you will see, because what happens with, in any technology, we have seen this time and again, is consumers will adapt to it faster than enterprises, just
Right.
because enterprises are large, and it takes a bit of time for you to churn out things. So you have to keep an eye on what do the consumers want. And today, when I look at our consumers, at least our part of the world, we see that it's a mix, right? It's a mix of saying some people want to work with us very digitally,
Yeah.
but some people do want the human touch, right? So we want to continue to provide the channel of choice to our customers and let
Right.
them choose where they
Right.
want to go best, right? That's the approach that we are using in implementing AI across the board.
No, that makes total sense, Shantanu. And I know we also talked about this on this automation side. You've made this point in the past about if AI and these AI agents are able to deeply integrate into the workflows and complete full actions, that's where I guess it's almost the next stage of automation. Talk to us a little bit, because there are simple workflows in
Yeah.
e-commerce, right? It is my
Yeah.
stuff, a few, but the enterprise stack is complex, and taking actions within that and deeply integrating into that.
Again, this could go on for a while, but I think the real power of agentic AI is when all areas of a business, you have probably heard about this, potentially in the future, building $1 billion companies,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
1% $1 billion companies.
I
And
guess.
I
Yeah.
don't think it is far from, don't know if it's $1 billion or not, but
Yeah.
it's not far from, and far from reality, I think. And a lot of people and a lot of industries, a lot of individuals today are already, I think gaining, yeah, gaining from these applications. But the way to think about this is, I think, is when you think of end-to-end agentic AI, you're thinking of a company with, you have agentic AI for service, for sales, for marketing, for talent acquisition,
Right.
so finance, for all of these functions. And each of them are, quote unquote, the expert in that area. And the information flow is happening between all of them, so that the outcome that you're providing
Mhm.
to your customers, or
Yeah.
quite frankly, even for individual productivity,
Yeah.
is enhanced so much that you don't really need to know how to code. You don't really need to know how to run analytics. You just need to be able to ask the smart questions, and then
Yeah.
the solutions are provided. I think that's the world that we are moving towards.
Yeah.
If I were to go a bit more,
Yeah.
there is probably a world, and again, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
There's probably a world where where bot to bot interactions are common, because we as consumers or as individuals, we are probably not, in some situations, probably not going to a website where we are telling our own agentic AI,
Right.
our own bot, about something that I want to buy and give me the best deal. But also I want this. So it's also, I want this, and this. You set a set of criteria. Bot goes and searches and finds you the best solution, actually buys it on your behalf. You end up getting it delivered. You find a problem. You tell the bot, hey, here's the problem, solve it. The bot reaches out to the relevant company, and the company has another. So there's probably a world of bot to bot interactions in the future that happens as well. But I still believe there is an element of human touch that I think will continue to stay
Right.
in some very super complex areas, at least in the next 5 to 10 years, I would say.
5-10 years. Right.
Yeah. But
Well,
AI is here to transform everything, right? And
oh,
I think this is what I tell everyone, which is, if you are not learning, it is not about where you are, what you are doing, right? If you are not front and center of AI, and if you're not gaining the knowledge of what AI can or cannot do, and what the possibilities in the future, you're going to be left behind.
So a related question to that, Shantanu, is, and this is a topic, especially with large enterprises, we see this a lot. I'm curious what you see here. And this talks about this 5 to 10 year time frame. The systems in large enterprises, the ERP system, the CRM system, the ordering system, the pricing system, the scam and fraud alerting system, and so on. And you mentioned like there should be AI agents for each of these, which
Yeah.
are specialized and they talk to each other and then they talk to, the service agent, let's say. But often when you get into these enterprises, you see that often these systems, even now, forget AI agents, they don't even talk to each other. There is often, we see a lot of companies where there are no API into the CRM. For example, it was built 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so there's a large part of, I hate to use this word, but digital transformation, digital, you know, nuts and bolts work, which needs to happen to modernize these things to be able to build an AI agent on top, right? So that we can see this automation future. Do you see that? Do you see that as an impediment or no?
Luckily enough, I would say, luckily enough that Wayfair is a very tech first company, and so I think a lot of this systematically doesn't end up being an issue as such for us. But you're right. Like if you think about the broader
Mhm.
enterprise, companies and enterprises. Again, I think there's a broad spectrum there of the biggest thing I see for people is it's almost overwhelming sometimes as I talk to other people in
Yeah.
many different companies. Like, where do I start? Like, what do I do? Like, I have this problem and this data at the back end and this and that, and
Mhm.
there's so many constraints, right? And the reason is I think too much information out there, overwhelming sometimes, not knowing where to start. And so for those enterprises, I would say I think the way to think about this is this make it a continuous learning process, right?
Right.
One approach is I'll wait until the world changes and then
Yeah, yeah.
this that is not the approach to be used with AI.
Especially.
The approach to be used is continuous learning, right?
Mhm.
Start somewhere, but yes, start, like I said in the beginning, start with the understanding of what are the areas of value creation.
Right.
Pick one area of value creation, start. And what you will see is as you start, your understanding of this improves. And then you say, now I see, even because of like the now I see I need 10 areas of digital transformation, which I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about in the past, then great. Then you get on the digital transformation journey while applying, AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a bit iterative. But like I said, I think luckily for us, I think we have always been a tech first company.
Right.
So that wasn't even a hurdle for us.
Rather than a hurdle. Yeah. And to your earlier point, you mentioned the 6 areas. One of the things which we have seen often, what we advise prospective customers is start with the areas around intelligence, customer 360, personal productivity, because those areas are lower risk, right? Especially if you're a large B2C organization like Wayfair, you don't want a bot to go on CNN, talking about stuff but personal productivity and intelligence, you can do rapid experiments on. You can, as you said, 10x your insights quality and insights velocity, and while learning rapidly and take those learnings to improve your agents and then eventually to the customer. That becomes a path to intelligence augmentation, then automation, right?
Absolutely true.
It's a reasonable way for CX leaders to think about because it's so overwhelming, especially in CX these days, of trying to do everything at one time. Maybe last couple of questions. One is on this topic of picking partners for this journey, right? Because especially we started this conversation with if it's a Fortune 500 organization, the scale, all of the sort of incredible workloads you guys have. There's a path of how do you pick a partner or technology partner, and this doesn't have to be about CX. I know you have a broad mandate. When technology is changing so rapidly, right? When your needs are changing so rapidly, right? 6 months from now, the CEO or CEO could say, we don't need to do A, B, let's do D and F, right? So how do you choose a technology partner for a 1 year contract, 3 year contract? These are long-term decisions, right? So talk to the audience about that.
That is a great question. So like I said, I think Wayfair is a tech first
Right.
organization and we
Mhm.
have, our own technology team. So a lot of the things we
There's
also,
buy in there also, right?
yeah,
There's a build
yeah,
buy, and then between buy, how do you think of buy? Yeah,
yes, yeah. We
a lot.
build many, like in fact, like most of the things I think we have built in-house, right?
Right.
And they work really, really well. But when it comes to if there are areas where we do end up choosing, or thinking about partners, the biggest the biggest thing for us, of course, the technological capabilities and all of that aside, right?
Mhm.
Which is, I don't think is the purpose of the question. Right? That
Yeah,
obviously is no brainer.
takes right.
That obviously is no brainer. The biggest thing is the willingness to try, innovate, change, and adapt, and be more agile in terms of how you're thinking about the solution. Right?
Yeah.
We have always been, as a company, we've always been innovators in terms of every area that we think about. And in selecting the partners, that always becomes the case, which is how open and transparent are you? And how willing are you in terms of innovating and totally reimagining things? And, there could be things like we tried, like, oops, no, we tried this didn't work. Let's change, let's pivot, let's do this. And Ashish, you have probably felt this while working with us as well. And hopefully but the outcome that comes out of that
Yeah.
becomes 10x better than going with a static solution and saying, okay, this is a static solution, and then let's just go with it.
But and going back to the build versus buy thing, as an operational leader, there must be this tension, right? Like you want to run as fast as possible in terms of implementing a technology and making your massive team more. And when you go to product and technology, even in the most efficient of organization, you are on their roadmap somewhere, right? And there are things above and below you.
Yeah.
So talk to the audience about how do you navigate that,
Yeah.
about what to build and what to buy and so on. Yeah.
So between the business and the technology teams, we actually work very closely together. And these are joint decisions made based on what area we are talking about, what innovation we want to drive. Is that innovation available in the market or not available in the market?
Mhm.
So it's a joint discussion. And whether it is and the decisions could be different depending on whether we're talking about storefront or whether we're talking about service, sales, we're talking about partner support, we're talking about transportation. It's very different, right?
Yep.
And I think the key, I would say the key is when there is not a solution out there, we see but we see tremendous value in it, we tend to build it. But there are some other cases where we've seen a solution out there, we do not think those solutions actually work. We would also then go ahead and build it. But in some cases, we say no, we do think there are solutions in the market which could solve our problem.
Mhm.
And then we see like what's the level of flexibility of working together and being able to be agile and change things as needed based on the experience we want to provide to our customers.
Mhm.
And then a joint decision is made between the technology and the business team to say, okay, in this area, we should probably look at a
Makes
partner
sense.
organization.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, sir.